living a full and well life put together, authentic.
We feel it.
Take care of ourselves.
Hello and welcome back to the Wishing You Well podcast. I'm Amy.
And I'm Catherine. And today we're talking about fun.
Which, spoiler alert, is a really weird time to be talking about fun because we are currently not having a lot of fun.
Where is the fun?
So we're going to get into all of that and more, I'm sure. But before we do, let's check in. I kind of previewed how, the how are you doing question, but how are you? What is self-care looking like?
These are two very different questions.
Understood, as they can be.
Yes. How am I? So overwhelmed and feeling like shit. Honestly, feeling much better today, but the first 2 days of this week, not great. You'd think I'd come on here and be like, I bought a house. I feel great. I bought a house and I feel terrible.
Yes, that's okay. I mean, it's okay. I imagine it feels terrible. I mean, it might also feel great too, but what's feeling terrible about it?
Well, we bought a little bit of a fixer-upper, and it just needs a couple of things for us to move in, and the couple of things feel like 1,000 things. And, that just coupled with living life and having to do all the other things. It's just a lot all at once. And I didn't prepare myself for it. I was on the fun train. We're talking about fun today. I was on the fun train of I'm buying a house. This is going to be so cool. And then the reality train hit me. It was like coming at me. And I didn't have time to hop from one train to the other. It just trampled me. So
you didn't see it coming.
I did not see it coming. And now, okay. Aside from that, or maybe not aside from that, sometimes when I get into like really, really stressful mode, it helps in a way, right? Like sometimes when we're overloaded and we don't feel like we have a lot of time, then we like get more productive. And so I feel like I did that yesterday while also feeling like total crap. And today, Catherine is benefiting from that because I did a little meal prepping and that was really, really nice. I had this yummy tuna salad for lunch today because I prepared that yesterday. I prepared these turkey meatballs yesterday that my daughter can eat today and that I can eat later. And that feels great. Amidst all the other things that don't feel so great. So I am taking care of myself somehow. It doesn't feel like it though, when like you're just doing it and maybe later you can thank yourself for it. Like right now, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm like, okay, great. Let's keep going. Because I'm on that train. We're just chugging along now. It hasn't stopped. Thinking about it and talking about it now is making me appreciate it. But I will wait to reap some of the benefits later.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're on the, that expression, the only way out is through. Like you're you're on the through part of it now. Like the only thing to do is just like to keep going. There's no turning back. Like you just have to keep going until you're at the other side of it. But like this middle part, it sucks and is overwhelming. And as you're saying, like it's not the only thing going on in your life. Like you still have all the other things.
Right. And it's also one of those feelings that you feel guilty for feeling because I bought a house. That's awesome. That's amazing. I also have a father-in-law who's a contractor and he's doing so much of the arrangements. And I have these brothers-in-law who ripped up carpets over the weekend and my husband ripped down wallpaper. Like all the people and all the pieces are moving. And I am really appreciative of it. And I also just have like a fog over that because of all the stuff that still has to happen. And so I like feel bad for not fully leaning into that gratitude at the same time, you know?
Totally. And I think that's also like a normal thing to be judging yourself for not like leaning into fully the positive side of things. And it sounds like there are a lot of things to be grateful for and to be excited about. And the other stuff is still true also. And so like, as we talk about all the time on this podcast, like how can we like give ourselves space and time to lean into both? Like make sure you're still staying grounded in gratitude while also knowing that this is a really sucky part of like the house buying process is like the house preparation process.
Right. I also want to add on to my self-care. I did go for a drive by myself last night, and that felt really, really great. It was one of those things that talk about the only way out and the only way in is through. Like I went out feeling this way and came home like totally feeling like another person. And it was an hour to myself, an hour where I just had like the windows down, I had the sunroof open, and I listened to music that I wanted to listen to, didn't have a crying baby in the backseat. It was just like peace, an hour of true peace. And I don't like to drive. So this is like a big, this is a big thing that I actually enjoy to drive because it was really just time to myself that I needed, and it felt really good.
Oh, I love that. Did you have like specific music that was playing? Like, what were you listening to?
It's maybe embarrassing, but I have a country favorites playlist that like it's probably 10 years old, and so it's like old pop country, if that's a thing. And I just felt like 20-year-old Catherine listening to me.
Carefree 20-year-old Catherine who didn't have these responsibilities.
So it was like, it felt like summer, and I was in the car by myself listening to blasting this music. It just felt like summer. And yeah, those are my embarrassing music choices.
I love it. I'm learning something new about you every day, Catherine. It's so great. But I need to ask you can you share your playlist on your Instagram story?
Ooh, okay. Don't judge me.
No judgment. No judgment.
Different side of vulnerability this time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We get vulnerable here on Wishing You Well.
Who knew self-care could be so vulnerable? Amy, tell me about you. How are you? How is your self-care?
You know, I've been like anticipating this question all day. And I guess the answer is like, I don't know how my self-care is. I guess I'm not being like super intentional with it. I am same but different situation as you. I have a 2-week vacation coming up in about a week and a half, which I hope is very fun. The last several of the vacations I've been on have been very much disrupted by stuff going on at work, back at home, all of that stuff. So I haven't like fully had a vacation in a while. But pre-vacation means like I'm trying to cram everything in that I possibly can before I go away. And so last week, this week, and next week are like jam packed, like, you know, whether it's with interviews or meetings or just things that just need to get done work wise before I'm hopefully offline for 2 weeks. And so I feel like I'm in the suck right now of like, okay, like just like, let me add one more meeting to my calendar, I guess, in order to just get it done or get it in. I already noticed I like triple booked myself next Monday. So I need to figure that out. So it's like that. I'm like in a frenzy of like just trying to do all the things. I think I deal with my own guilt around being out of office for 2 weeks. So I know that I'm overcompensating there, and some of these things probably can wait until I'm back from vacation, but that's a problem for another day that I'm not going to be able to conquer before before this vacation. So all of that to say, I think what I'm really trying to focus on are like the basic needs of self-care. Like, am I drinking enough water? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I moving my body? Just like the things that keep me a human. And then all the other stuff I just don't have time for. Like, I'll, I don't know. I'm going to try to stay to my workout schedule in the way that it normally is, but also knowing that like maybe one of those, like one out of the few that I've scheduled might get displaced and a meeting go in its place. Like it has to be okay. So I'm like trying to be flexible while also like trying to have some non-negotiables about my self-care.
I mean, even for those not watching, Amy just shrugged. Like, it sounds like you have it figured out in a way that's like, maybe you're not being as intentional about it this time around, or like maybe you're not thinking you're being as intentional about it, but like you've done this so many times and you do have a goal here of actually taking a vacation that might just be the greater picture here too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't get a real vacation the last time you took it. And so you prepping yourself and maybe overdoing it beforehand might just be the self-care that you need in order to get to the self-care that you actually need.
Yeah.
And I mean, this kind of reminds me of what Chris was saying in our episode with him last episode, that all the actual like work project-y things feel like self-care sometimes because it really does get you to that next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, maybe this isn't the glamorous one, but you are doing those other 3 things too. And I was going to ask you about that because we haven't checked in and like followed up about some self-care that we've talked about previously.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked about your sleep recently.
Mm-hmm.
How has your sleep been?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So my sleep has been better. I had come off a period where I was like maybe sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night, like up all in the middle of the night and couldn't go back to sleep. And I think a lot of it had to do with how much I was traveling back and forth, and sometimes I'm getting home late, so having a hard time like getting on a sleep schedule. So I've recently put my foot down and sort of negotiated with myself, really more than anybody else, that I need to be in one place for 10 days. Like, this back and forth travel is not sustainable. So I'm hoping that with this new schedule that I'm able to get into some routine, and that my sleep is only like slightly disrupted, every 11 days or something like that, that would be a win. So I'm here in Miami for, a handful of days now at this point, more than that. And then I go right into vacation from here. So I'm hoping that will also be like a nice slide into a lot of like a good chunk of sleep. So
You're doing so much more than you thought.
well, maybe I'm just not thinking about it,
Yeah.
in general. Like, I think I'm just like going through the motions in a way. And maybe I've just, to your point, like I'm just more practiced at it. So it doesn't feel like as intentional, but maybe this is just what I do now.
You're that much of a self-care pro.
So all of this to be said, we're sort of in a similar place of like, we're in a grind right now.
Yes.
And when we were talking about, this episode, I think we were, even though it was just a few days ago, like almost in a different headspace, which is wild.
Totally different. Totally different. I was still on the other train.
Yeah, you were still on the fun train.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's talk about fun and why we should be talking about fun. to begin with.
Maybe it'll make us more fun. Maybe. Okay. So the intention behind talking about fun, well, at least my intention was I just came off of a really fun day when we were talking about it. And I was like, oh my God, this feels good. And I think it was such a rare feeling for me to have lately that I was itching to feel it again and thought that like, wow, we really should be talking about this because what more, because what's a better way to feel good on your health journey, on your wellness journey than having fun? Give me some ideas. That might be it. It's the key to all wellness is fun. No, it's not. Maybe not. But it's important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and maybe I'm thinking about what you're saying because like there is something, especially as an adult, right? Like having fun, it feels like so. The word that's coming to mind is indulgent, like, and it feels like I just. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. We have to unpack that. But like, there's also this, like, for both of us, not just you, but like, there's this feeling of like, I just like want to bottle it and savor it. Like, and I think that's because it feels so few and far between or so rare in adulthood to like have these fun opportunities or like fun experiences, like full body fun. Like that's like when I think about fun, that's like I feel it throughout my whole body. I'm like just immersed in it, and I don't experience that very often. And yeah, I said, and it feels indulgent. It feels like, ooh, like is this too much? Like, what am I avoiding? What am I not doing because I'm doing this fun thing?
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Well, it feels like it feels indulgent. It feels like a treat because yeah, I mean, we're adults now, right? We've been adults for quite some time. And the more you become an adult, the more you get old, the older you get, the less fun you have.
I know,
really?
but maybe we can challenge that. Like, does that have to be true? Do we need to accept that?
I'd like to not. I just think I think what can be corrected is the older you get, the more responsibilities that you have, the more things cost, then then the harder it gets to have that fun, the harder it is for it to, similar to our conversation around relationships and the work that has to get put into them in order for them to function and in order for them to thrive. You need to put that same kind of work into, and time needs to be carved out for that fun, in a more intentional, more just more way, or else it's not going to happen. So no, it doesn't have to be like, oh shit, you turned 30 now, there's no more fun. Like, and it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. Or like, oh, now you have a baby, no more fun. It wasn't like that either. But like, it does have to be that much more work has to go into it now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You have to put work in to have fun. Like those two things feel like they don't go hand in hand. Yeah. They feel like they're opposing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting. Of course I knew we were talking about this today, but it wasn't as top of mind, when I was talking to my therapist yesterday. And one of the things that I was talking with her about regarding my upcoming vacation, I literally, I feel like I repeated probably 20 times, like, I just want to have fun while I'm there. And she was like, Amy, what do you mean by that? And I was like, I don't know. I just want to have fun. And so she was very helpful in like helping me understand like what it was that I was looking for. And so much of the way, like when I think about when my experience of having fun or picture myself, like if I'm outside of my body looking at myself having fun, I am so in the moment. Like I am just so all in it. And I think that that is something that for me robs myself of feeling experiencing fun, even being fun, is that like I still have all of the things in my head of like, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like, let's look at the time. How long have you been here? Like, what else do you, and it's like, it just pulls you out of the experience of letting yourself be all in.
Oh, so true. And I love that you were talking about that without actually realizing that that's what you need and that's what we're talking about. What do you think is missing? Like, okay, referring back to our most recent episode again with your husband Chris, you guys talked about how you have a scheduled date night. Did you talk about your dancing? You did talk about your dancing a little bit. You guys ballroom dance almost every weekend together. These things are meant to be fun, and they're meant to be fun together. Would you say that they're still fun, even though they're like scheduled, even though they're regimented and just like part of your life at this point?
I'd say yes. I'd say yes, but what I'll also say is that the date night is easier to get myself to. Like there are plenty of times at the end of a long week that like, yeah, I'd rather like put on my PJs and, you know, go to bed early. But it's easier to kind of get myself to put in a little bit more effort into my appearance and you know, get my conversation mindset on like to not kind of turn my social battery off. And so like it's easier to show up for that and like be all in on that. And what Chris was describing there was like phones are like not a part of that. And so we have no choice but to like be fully there with one another. Going to ballroom dance is often, it's like a tug of war sometimes with Chris and I, where I'm like, oh, I really don't want to go. I really don't want to go. And he'll say like, you always feel better after. And so that's often a conversation. And he's right. Similarly with ballroom dance, you don't have your phone on you. You're like fully engaged, fully there. And I laugh hysterically the entire time when we're dancing because we're not great. And like our instructor's funny. And so it's you're in your body when you're dancing. And so again, there's very little thinking that happens. It's all about feeling and doing. And so I think that really allows for it to feel really fun, but that doesn't mean that I, look forward to it all the time, most times.
I can relate to not looking forward to it, but then still experiencing the fun part. When I said that I was coming off of a day of fun, it was like 2 hours of fun on the 4th of July. My husband and I played tennis with another couple, 2 of our friends. And I also like leading up to it, all I was thinking about was like, oh, does this line up what my daughter needs to be fed, and like getting her all settled and everything like that. In order for me to have the fun, there's so much like that has to be planned just for her. On top of the getting there and getting things together and all of that, like she takes up so much of my brain space that it really does make me feel like, is it even worth it to go? Because it's so complicated to make sure everything is settled with her to go and do something without her. I get that. And then it was fun. Yeah. So Chris is right. It's true. It takes work, but getting there is definitely the hardest part.
Right. But I think also part of your question, I wonder if you were also asking like, does the fact that it's scheduled and like part of a routine rob the fun of it? And for me, I don't think so. Like, because I wouldn't do it, I really wouldn't do it if I didn't have some accountability to do it. I think people feel that way about like scheduling sex.
Yes, I was thinking about that. Yep.
You know, like that's often a quote unquote prescription that like couples hear if they're, you know, wanting to prioritize sex more. And they're like, yeah, but doesn't that make it, isn't the spontaneity of sex like the thing that makes it fun? And it's like, maybe, but like having it also can be fun. So like, why don't you just set up a time that you can just have it?
I think something that also makes fun challenging is thinking that you have to have a type of fun that aligns with someone else's type of fun. And for the for example, for the longest time, I would say about me and my husband throughout our relationship. So like prior to getting married, prior to getting engaged, prior to even living together, like we're just like not fun. And what I meant by that was like we're not big partiers. Like we don't go out and drink ourselves to a pulpit. Like that's not a term.
Pulpit.
We don't pulpit. We don't like we're not big drinkers. We don't go out and party. Like we don't do that kind of fun. So I would just blanket our relationship as not fun. And he would always correct me and say like, no, we just don't like doing those things. Like we like to do plenty of fun things. And so whenever I just wrapped my brain around that, like not labeling myself as not fun, I was able to then have more fun in enjoying the things that I do enjoy because I wasn't wrapped up in this idea of having to do what other people thought was fun. As soon as I let that go, I started having more fun.
Well, it's so this conversation feels so timely because I think like we also have these connotations of what fun means, and I don't think it's just you or me who might associate fun with like being very social. Maybe, you know, drinking involved too. But that's maybe a type of fun that some people have. That can also be a type of fun people grow out of as well. But like, what do you think is fun now? Like, what is your brand of fun? Like, what is that?
Like specifically?
Like? Yeah.
I mean, I would say like getting out in nature, doing something active, going out for coffee. That is like so much fun. If I'm sitting around a table with my friends drinking coffee versus like sitting around or standing around at a bar at 2 a.m., like, ugh, gross. But like another thing as far as like a reminder that my husband gave me when we were going to be having our baby was like a lot of people sort of like mourn the loss of being able to do the things that they like to do prior to having a baby. And we didn't feel like we were going to have to do that. And to an extent, of course, there's certain things that we have to change around. But for the most part, we weren't drastically changing our lifestyle to have a baby. We were going to be able to bring her to our Sunday coffee dates with our friends. We were going to be able to go hiking with her. We're going to be able to, you know, eventually play like sports with her outside and go to the beach. Although the beach experience has changed significantly, I can still get to the beach. The experience itself, yes, has changed, but we now have this little buddy that can come with us and do the things that we like to do, which I think is really great, because in a way that definition of fun hasn't had to change. It does look different a little bit, but it does happen less often, but the underlying meaning behind the fun still lives, which is cool.
Right. It still hits.
Yes. It hits the same.
Yeah. Well, it's I think I also identify as someone who's not very fun, and I'm still like, I don't know if that's true or not. That I'm maybe I am not a very fun person. I can have, well, I don't know. I mean, I think Chris would also say I'm not a very fun person.
What are you not doing that's not fun to him?
I don't know. I think, well, I'm thinking, I guess vacations also vary on the brain. I'm thinking about our vacations, right? And so what's really fun to him is like going and playing beach volleyball every morning. What's really fun for me is sitting on my beach chair, reading a book and not speaking to anybody or making eye contact with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels wonderful. That feels, again, decadent. That feels indulgent. And while I'm not like outwardly like laughing or, you know, like it just feels great. And so I think for him, he's like, well, maybe to say this like makes me sound really pathetic and sad, but like, I don't know that I'm laughing a tremendous amount like through my life. I mean, in this way I do. But like, I don't know that I'm even necessarily like fun seeking in a way. I think a lot of my fun is very internal.
I think the fun that you're describing gets a bad rap.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like a lackluster kind of fun, just because it's not glitzy and it's not glamorous. You're not describing the like when we used to talk about self-care and like a menu with desserts and like these like big treats of vacations or like concerts and going to see a play somewhere, like these like big events, like those get the fun package. And like you're talking about something so simple that I think gets lost in translation when it comes down to fun. Like we don't have to do something so big to have fun. And like that internal fun that you're feeling, you can get that so much more often if you do hone in on those smaller things and if you do experience it in those smaller areas.
Right. Yeah. I guess as you're saying, like fun, the idea of fun feels like it has to be very big. And you're right in that it can be a little quieter or, and it is so individualized, I guess. Like another thing Chris really enjoys that and thinks is so fun is like playing board games. That to me is the most boring fucking thing in the world. What he enjoys playing. And so like, yes, it's very subjective, but I guess it's I guess what I'm noticing as we're talking about this is also like how much self-judgment there is around the things that we enjoy, because they might not fit a particular mold or expectation.
Yeah. Why is that? Why do you think we're so focused on thinking about the mold of fun versus our own fun?
Well, when you think of fun, like what's the immediate like first thing that comes to mind or first image that comes to mind?
Feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a weird answer?
No.
Does it fit what you were going for?
No, yeah. I was because I'm
I'll fit the mold.
Be playful with me. No, but that, I mean, actually speaking of playful, that like playing was the first thing that came to mind. But I was just trying to see for both of us, like we have some inherent association with this word or with this set of activities. And like, for me, I think some of what I think I struggle with was in growing up. This might take us down a different tangent, but in growing up, I feel like it was always so serious. Like school was so serious, and like sports were not very fun. It was like very competitive and very serious. Like I never really had a summer vacation because we were always traveling for sports. And I don't think we truly went on a vacation until I graduated high school, like when all the activities were like done. And so it just felt, I think I learned a lot about like working hard. I don't think I learned a lot about playing hard. And so I think now it's this like fun for me feels like it needs to be earned. It needs to be again, it has to culminate in this like big thing. And so I think that as a personal answer to that question, I think that's like where it comes from. Is it was just something I guess I learned so like through social learning, but yeah.
I would actually, yeah, I would totally agree with you in a lot of ways. I had similar feelings around like the sports that I played and like the activities that were so scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd also say that like that maybe it has maybe it seems like it has to fit a certain, or like check a certain box, or like fit a certain mold, because when you like lack the creativity to try and like figure that out on your own, or like cultivate it yourself, then you're bored.
Mm-hmm.
And like if we're talking about childhood, like there's a lot of boredom in childhood, and there's a lot of, I mean, at least there was pre like devices, or if you're not, you know, if you're trying not to have devices with your kids. But like I remember being bored a lot of the time. And I remember Erica Bogdan was talking about this in our episode with her. And it like it really dawned on me, like, yeah, I was bored a lot. I was in the car a lot. And like I really had to use my imagination a lot. And so like as a kid, you have that space to really be imaginative. And as you grow older and those spaces fill up with so many other things, you're not accessing maybe that creativity and that imagination as much. And so the first thing you think of is probably what's really just like out in front of you, and like what society's putting there, and like
Mm-hmm.
what is just in our faces, and not us actually digging deep into like what we really want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think something you were just saying around, you know, referencing Erica around having the space to be creative or an imaginative, that also feels so accurate too. And I think that also is, I think, why we sometimes feel as adults like we've outgrown the right to have fun, because we do have all of these other, whether it's pressures or responsibilities, or and those are, you know, maybe societally influenced. But yeah, I'm in my mind, I'm like going down a path where I'm like just thinking about how deprioritized we as many of us as adults have bought into this idea that like fun needs to be like last on the priority list. Like we need to do all the things like to like before we like prioritize having fun, like the audacity.
It just seems like it's really built into the way things are, at least in our country, the way that our lives are so fast paced and so work focused. It's like in the infrastructure, you know, it's like the way that our streets are, and the way that our restaurants are, but like everything is just so anti-fun. And like when on this last trip that I was on, that I talked about a little while ago, where we were in Spain, you're walking the streets and you just see people gathering after work, and people are there, and they're just together and they're having so much fun. They're sitting there, they're laughing, they're having their little aperitif and whatever. And it just looks like so much fun. And there's like that, like that, there's like that saying that Americans live to work and everyone else works to live. So it almost kind of just goes along with that. I feel like the whole like I need to earn my fun. It's because like we feel like we need to earn everything and do everything around the work and not so much around everything else about life.
No, that makes so much sense. And you're absolutely right. Our lives here are set up to be productive and efficient. And in that, there's like very little room for creativity. Like it stifles creativity and fun. And I think the other thing about fun, and we've talked about this before in other contexts, has been like, in order to let yourself have fun, that's like very vulnerable, because it does mean that you are letting your guards down a bit, that you're letting yourself be fully in the moment. And that can be really difficult to do if your life is inherently stressful. Like all of us, at least in the US, live in a chronically stressed state, again, given the way that our worlds are set up. And so it's that much harder to even access fun or lean into fun when we have it, because we're like kind of often just tense and stressed most of the time.
We're tense and we're stressed. And like, I'll say a word that I feel like my sister-in-law's mom was saying, that like she'd never heard this until like her daughter, my sister-in-law, had babies. But like, we're all overstimulated too. That's like such a buzzy thing to talk about these days, but it's true in that like what you're saying is sometimes you just have to dull it all down in order to really experience the smallest thing and find enjoyment in that. And instead we like, even if we're not, or instead we're so used to that chaos thinking about the bear here too, like we're so used to that chaos that when things just quiet down for a moment, we're so uncomfortable with it that we just pull away from it and then go and stimulate ourselves somewhere else.
Yeah.
But like, we're not stimulating ourselves in the way that like we actually want to be stimulated, because we're just caught up in everything else.
Right. I mean, going back to what you and Erica Bogdan were saying around boredom, like we grew up learning how to tolerate boredom, but because we have access to be stimulated and entertained all the time, we don't let ourselves really get bored. And so we don't, and again, like with that boredom, we can tap into imagination much. There's more room, as you were saying, there's more space. And I think the other thing that I'm also recognizing as well, as you're saying, being overstimulated, that kind of like multitasking brain that we have, that our brain is on overdrive. It's toggling through so many different things, has so many open tabs. How difficult is it to actually be in the moment then? And the things that I identified as fun, right? They're dancing, no phone, having dinner with my husband, no phone, reading and not talking to anyone, also no phone, but like very, very single pointed focus, very difficult to have other distractions get in the way of being fully in the moment. There is a mindfulness aspect, I think, that also comes with letting yourself have fun, or being able to feel the fun and joy.
Right. Well, and it's something that, something that we talk about all the time is like feeling multiple things at once. And in order to get to that fun, there's some discomfort in it, or there's just, there might be a lot of other feelings to sort through sometimes. Oh, one thing that I'm thinking about is like right after my daughter was born, you're initial postpartum, you're like in a lot of discomfort. You're not sleeping, you're feeling a significant amount of soreness and pain and in places that you never thought could before, and you're adjusting to this new life that you've only ever heard about. And then you're also, or at least me, like I also had the most fun that I've ever had in my entire life because I was the most present that I've ever been. And it wasn't one of those times where I felt like, Catherine, you're not being present. You need to work on some mindfulness. It happened so innately because I had to jump into this role that I'd never been in before. And so it did sort of just happen there where like I was like, oh my God, this living being that's now living with me like needs me and needs all my attention. And so it just allowed me to just tune everything out. I mean, like this was September, October, November 2023. There was a lot. I mean, there's always so much happening in the world, but like there was a lot going on in the world. And I had no idea. I had no idea what was going on. And I was so happy. It was the most wonderful, like I'd say like those first like two or so months where I tuned everything out just to be there with her. And I loved it. I had so much fun.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss in that way. But like, but I think that's spot on in terms of like when we need to be fully all in, like that's like such a sweet spot. And that's why things like, you know, such a great self-care practice is doing something that you're not an expert in. And that's again where dancing comes in, because you're more fully there, because you need to be fully present and fully attentive in order to try to learn what you're doing. And so like you can be more all in. Like it is like calls for a necessity in a sense. And doing things like I'm thinking about other things that tend to be even grounding, that take us into the present moment. Like intense exercise is such a really good way to get grounded, or get present rather, because all you can focus on is the movement. You can't really access your thoughts in the same way. Doing a cold plunge, like all you can do is focus on regulating your body. And so I think finding opportunities where you can again build that muscle maybe of being fully all there, where you can turn the volume down on the noise externally, is such a good practice as a way to try to notice opportunities for more fun in your life.
Wow. I'm like thinking about all the ways that I want to try to like tone it all down. There are a lot of ways to do that.
I also think
I want more fun.
No, well, there's another, I forget, I'm forgetting right now who the author is, but like there is also something about, oh God, I'm going to cringe at what I'm about to bring in here right now.
Don't say it.
No, I'm not. I mean, but on social media, there is this idea of like romanticizing your life that like people get really into, and that I kind of, you know, roll my eyes at, although I get it. But one thing that it reminds me of another concept around like figuring out ways to gamify your life. And so like when there are like these, I'm thinking about both of us and kind of like these sucky, sitting in the suck right now of things, like I'm thinking about like ripping up carpets or whatever it is that you have to do. Like, is there a way to turn that into fun? Like you're competitive, right? So like how can I beat the clock in like ripping this you know, carpet up? Or like for me in these marathon meetings of like, I don't even know how I can gamify that, but like, is there a way to kind of try to find some fun amidst the suck? Like, and I don't know if that's healthy or not, but like it is also a way of coping, so that you don't feel like you have to choose either things suck or I get to have fun.
No, that's I really like that. And I agree about the whole like romanticize your life. It also reminds me of our conversation with Sophia Mullins, or when she talked about relaxed productivity. Like sometimes there's so many like monotonous things that we have to do. Like, how can we jazz it up a bit? Why not?
I ran into her randomly. We were both on our morning walks recently with our husbands. Yeah, it was really funny.
If in listening to this, you're thinking about the fun that you're having or the fun that you're not having, just knowing that there's room to play around with it. There's room to try and figure it out, no matter where you are in life, no matter what's going on, that something can be done, something can move around, something can shift, some music can start playing, some dancing can be happening, like something can give in order for there to be some fun in it. And if you're feeling that guilt or you're feeling that indulgence, then there's something probably more behind that, and probably something cool to explore in some therapy. Why not?
Yeah, that's great. But I also like what you're saying. Like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Like, we can have sprinkles of fun even in the mundane, like your 90s country playlist.
Sprinkles are so fun.
Sprinkles are fun.
Put them on the ice cream. They just add sugar, but no, they add some color.
Yeah. They, for me, make a sundae. Yeah. So we don't need to be all or nothing with our fun. We can like be individualized in our fun. I think I would also what I want to do is like make a fun, quote unquote, inventory, like to really think about the things that I find fun and find opportunities where I'm already doing those things or when I can. And again, maybe it is my silly little, morning latte. Like that feels fun to me. The making it, Wait,
can I tell you something that was so okay. Oh, we also think about fun and like being a child. Like I love any time that I can access my child self in fun. We went out for ice cream the day that we closed instead of popping a bottle of champagne, which we actually do have that our realtor gave us, and we're saving it for when we move in. But we went out for ice cream and I ordered 2 flavors, and I thought that I was just going to get 1 scoop of both. And they gave me the mondoest ice cream I've ever seen. And I ate the entire thing, and it was 100 degrees out. It was just melting while I was eating it. I got a cup. Like I was trying to eat this thing and I got so sticky. It was disgusting and delicious. And I had so much fun.
Eating it, or was it about eating it, or all of it? Yeah. I love that. I mean, there are certain things that I think are like that, where I just, like we can have these almost like micro moments of fun if we pay attention enough, I guess, to see what like brings us that like spark of maybe it is childlike excitement or wonder or presence.
Okay, so let's make a self-care homework for the 2 of us that we have to incorporate some sort of fun, whether it's micro fun, child fun, adult Amy reading a book by herself fun. Like it's fun, and we have to think about it.
Do we have to do it before our next check-in, or we just have to think about it?
We have to do it.
Okay, deal. All right. So we would love for you to comment on this episode, whether you're watching us on YouTube or following along with us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or following along with us on our Instagram account, what it is that you do for fun, what fun looks like for you. You can watch this episode on YouTube, Wishing You Well by Revive Center for Wellness. You can also follow us on Instagram at Wishing You Well Pod. You can follow me at Amy Albero LCSW, Catherine at Catherine Van Eyck. Send us emails to wishingyouvell@revivecfw.com. You can also follow our larger organization, Revive Center for Wellness, at Revive CFW. But we will be back next week with another update on fun and a special guest as well. So we will see you then. But until then, we are wishing you well.